Hello and welcome back to another episode of Multi-Tech Spec, where today we're going to be looking at variables. So variables in Terraform, essentially what they are is, let's say for example, you are making a letter, right? You want a letter and you've got, I don't know, let's say 3 people you want to send it to, and for some reason you don't know their names, and let's say you're trying to scam people, so you say, congratulations, you've won a bike, right? So that way you hope that somebody opens their inbox and therefore clicks on your scam. I don't recommend doing that in real life, but if it is something that you enjoy, then well done. But well done, and I don't recommend it. Just don't do that. Just don't scam people. But at the end of the day, let's say you wanted to do something similar to that. So what would you do? Well, first of all, seeing as you don't know the names, you may want to create a list of names, right? So let's start off with creating a list in that sense, right? So we'll call this list of names, which we'll declare as a variable. And inside of your head, right, you think, oh, perhaps I need to make it a list, right? So what are my list of names? So, okay, first of all, we know it's going to be a list, right? We know the first part, but we don't know for our automatic generation what the type will be. Okay, well, let's think about it, right? So what's a name made out of? Characters, right? So we've got Danny, we've got Sandra, we've got Joe, Joanne, I don't know how to spell Joanne, Joanne, something like that. So what do we notice about these? Well, we all know that with a name, right? Unless you're like XVA12 or something, then most of the times if you're going to make a letter, it's going to be all characters, right? Which is going to be like A to Z. So what we can do is we can say, well, there are a list of strings, right? String, list of type string. Okay, and let's say, well, we can't make our user interact with it because we want them to click on our nice, lovely little spammy letter. So what we'll do is we'll set a default. And the way that we do that is by just saying down here default equals, and then you have your string value. This is exactly how you do a list of strings, right? So let's say our first value is going to be Danny. Nice lovely little string there. Our second value is going to be Sandra. Okay, and the next one's going to be Joe. And we'll do Jonathan as well. Alright. But oh wait! Hang on a minute. I look at my code and I notice something. It says you've won a bike. Well, who's you? That's not very personal, is it? I'm trying to scam people here. Can't have congratulations, you've won something. Who's you? Yes, you. Yes. That's very convincing. Yes, I'm sure my victims will fall foul of that. But anyway, so it's a bit of fun. Okay, this is all fun. This is not. I'm not going to scam people in real life. This is just a bit of fun. So let's just say, right, okay. I just want Danny. Well, if it's just Danny that I want, then I need to get the index from the list, right? So the index is the position in which the name stands. Now, if you think of a list, right, Danny is actually the first element in the list, right? As humans, we know Danny. Well, Danny's Danny, so therefore he's going to be in element 0, right? At least to the computer, right? Because this is an array of strings. If you think about it that way, it makes more sense. The index starts at 0, 1, 2, 3. So how do I prove that? Well, Danny, I don't understand. What do you mean it's an index of 0? Okay, well, think about it this way, right? If you want to see if it starts at 0 or 1, or what the values are, try this. Let's input our variable, and let's call it var.name, and let's reference the index, right? So reference the index, what you do is you put 2 brackets which are square, so these square brackets, and then just say 0. Now what you do is you run a terraform plan. And it says the variable of name has not been declared. That's because back when I was doing this, I called this name. Okay, so if you get this error, don't worry about it. All you got to do is this: change the name of the var, right? So var dot something, that's called a variable declaration. And what that means is that we take the information which is part of the variable dot list of names, and what we want is element 0, which is actually the first element. Okay, the first element in our array of lists. And why do I say array? Well, because it starts from 0, as I will now demonstrate. So let's do terraform plan. And there you go. See, congratulations, Danny, you've won a bike. Well, Danny, I don't mean to be rude, but this is very inefficient. I can't go there and say, right, index 1 is now Sandra. I mean, who can read that? You're right, you can't. But there's a slight problem. Even though we can have a for loop and say, well, for each of the values of the list of names. So for example, we can say, for each stuff, then stuff comes out, right? So we can say, right, for each list of names. The problem is that the content, right, the content argument of the local file, sorry. So in other words, what this does, this local file, it only accepts the string value. So what I mean is, congratulations, have won a bike. That's all words, right? It wants words. Words being the string. So what we have to do is we have to say, well, okay, if we want to iterate, so what that means is if we want to go over this list of strings, right, we need to add a for loop. So we know that we need to add a for loop. So let's go and add a for loop now, right? Right, let's just add a for loop. So we'll just say for name in var dot list of names, right? Then, which is the 2 dots, congratulate var dot list of names, right? That's what we would. Sorry, names. Let's call that names. Right. So this is what you think, right? For name in var list of names, right? You've won a bike. Okay. Now that looks perfectly sensible, right? You'd think, okay, plan that and it should work. Well, unfortunately it doesn't, right? And even though I think you're correcting your thinking, and even if I was to put name here, this wouldn't work, right? Watch this. Okay, I'd get something similar. There we go. It's a list of strings with 4 elements, right? So what are the elements? Well, it's Danny, Sandra, Joe, and Jonathan. But hang on a minute. I thought if you do a for loop, then shouldn't that just be one value? Yes. Yes, it should be. You are absolutely correct. It should be one value, right? But for some reason, Terraform thinks, oh, well, I'm accessing a list of strings, therefore it has to be printing 4. No. Bad, Terraform. Bad. So what we do is we say, we want to use the join function. And we'll say join, and then we'll put our separator in, which is /n, I think. Yeah. /n. And then we'll separate that out from the pack, and we'll just say this, right? So what happens now? Well, what I've said is make a new line for each of the names in this list that we have, and then call that name as the name in the element, right? So what this will read is like for one line, it will say, congratulations, Danny, have won a bike. And that should say you. Right, we're trying to be a bit more personal, right? So that should say you. So congratulations, Danny, you've won a bike, right? Now when that gets run, in other words, this part gets run, what happens is a new line will be created each time this line runs, right? So this is what happens. You end up with one file which has multiple names. Right? Congratulations, Danny, I've won a bike. Sandra has won a bike. Now, unfortunately, this is all on the same line, and I think that's because this is the wrong way around. So what I need to do is that, I think, and that should make it one of 2 lines. There we go. We've got 4 lines now. Congratulations, you won a bike, right? Now, that's great. That's great, because now we have one file with 4 names. But ideally, we would want what we would want is we would want 4 files with 4 names, right? So now we've got to go into another for loop, which is actually on the for each, right? So what we can say is we can grab all of that, put it down here, get rid of this. Whoa, let's comment that out. Okay, and then what we can say is we can say for each. Right, let's do a for each. So what we need is a for each, right? So we can say for each var dot list of strings. The content is going to be right. Congratulations. Congratulations. Name, right? So we want the each. It'll be each dot value. Ooh, hello. Come on. Each dot value. Each. Damn it. Dot value. There we go. Each dot value. You have won a bike, right? So now if I run that, that should be 4 separate files, essentially. But again, it says list of, must be a map or set of strings. So what we can do is we can say to set, right, which is a function. And that what that does is that converts that list of strings into a set of strings. And we should now get 4 separate files. Here we go. Congratulations, Sandra, you've won a bike. Congratulations, Danny, you've won a bike. Joanne, blah, blah, blah. Right? So there's 2 different ways of using for loops and how to use variables, you know, to create, in our case, our scam letter. Right? We can create one giant list of names and say, well, aren't you a little bit evil? Aren't you a little bit evil? Now I know about Sandra. Now I know about John. Now I know about Joanne. You know, all that sort of thing. But it's one big letter, right? So you can say like, okay, you know, congratulations, you've won a bike. Or you could say like, congratulations, you've won a bike, Joe, and I know about your friend Sandra, right? So you can declare both if you want, using variables and loops. In our case, what we've done is we've said, right, okay, we want one long list of names whereby you've won a bike. And we've also said, you know, here's 4 letters that we'll create with 4 different people that we're going to send out through our for each loop. Okay, so just to add a little bit more extra context to this, what we've done here is we've said each of the values which are from the for each. So in other words, when we've done our loop throughout this, what's happening is that each of these values here, right? So each one of these names, right, are being printed each time that we go over each name, essentially. So the way to think about it is that this toSet is this. Okay, and then the for each is just saying, well, okay, this is element 0 that we saw earlier. This is element 1. This is element 2. This is element 3. Right? But rather than saying that, all we're saying is, right, each one of these, so if you think about element 0, which is Danny, all it's saying is, congratulations, each dot value, right? This is the value in the for each. The each is just referencing the for each. And it's saying, Danny is first, you have won a bike. Okay, that's one person done. The next person, right? So that's element 1 now, is going to be Sandra. So Sandra is the next value. Joe is the next value. Jonathan is another value. And by doing that, because we've done it at the resource level, that's now 4 separate files. Okay? So I hope you've learned something today, and it's been quite interesting now that we have our scam emails, and now you can send them out to whoever you wish, right? Now you can start scamming or whatever you want, sending them as emails and that kind of thing. Of course, I don't condone that. Don't do that. This is just a joke. This is just for play, and you know, to help you get started with Terraform as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.